All right, so welcome to a new subsection for H Radio 223 part-timers. We're going to be looking at this lesson in two parts because it's quite a long lesson, as you can see there, 28 slides. But we're also going to be looking at a couple of videos as we normally do. This one is based, or it focuses on airtime, selling airtime, advertising, and spots, etc. How to do it, the perspective from a sales perspective, how to make up the radio product, the radio station as a product very attractive to potential customers that want to advertise again with the station. And more of those obviously aspects under chapter 31, which is on page 389 to 424, sales and commercial. And that is from Beyond Powerful Radio. Just to note, it's not Next Level Radio. This one comes from your other textbook, Beyond Powerful Radio, from Valerie Geller. Okay. All right. Again, once again, just as admin, as we always do, just note that you can always contact me on WhatsApp or direct messaging me for anything that you do need or need explained or that you're struggling with. And yeah, take obviously make use of that opportunity or that outlet, please. Okay, all right. So let's start with the introduction to this, to first slide, should I say? Okay, so the introduction to what we are in sales. This is what Pat Bryson from Broadcasting International. We're all in sales. We are all in sales, and that can be maybe inflected a bit differently. We're all in sales, right? We're all in sales, or you're all in sales. From Broadcasting International, the Greaseman, Doug Trout, who syndicates a personality, or is a syndicated personality. That means that his show is syndicated to different, maybe provinces or states, probably in America. Says, do anything that you want on air, but you still have to be able to sell it. If a sponsor is afraid to be associated with it, well, then you lose. And basically, that's a good directive and a good indication as to maybe you should change the way that you are doing things. Right, or the way that you have constructed your product at the end of the day. When we go on, obviously, as you know, I do make some commentary as we move along, but when it is just it's kind of straightforward, like, yeah, let's just read a couple of the points, and then it's kind of dissect them as we move along. An understanding of the revenue side of the industry is going to make for a more valuable asset to the station. So you, as a staff member and employee, not just being on air, but understanding that what you do on air is how the station keeps its doors open, and that is obviously that's the biggest, most important thing of that station, of any company, is that it has business at the end of the day. And it is very little, and it has very little to do with what happens in the background when compared to what happens in the front. So what happens on air, because that is where everything, like, that's where you're going to basically, I want to kind of use a phrase, and I don't know which phrase to use, but you're going to pay a piper over there, right? That's where you showcase anything and everything. Doesn't matter what happens, like I say, behind closed doors. It's really what goes out on air that's going to make that station money. Okay, so with an economy that has ups and downs, and we can talk about that from a global perspective, not just from a local perspective here in South Africa. Economies have ups and downs, and the thing is that it becomes a risk to be able to have I say so expenditure allocated to, let's say, advertising on, for example, let's say radio is it's expensive, so is TV, and so is print. All of them are expensive, right? Advertising to a public market or to a mass audience is expensive. So when we do that, or when a company or does want to do that, they've got to think about it strategically and say, like, is it going to be worth it? And then how do I evaluate worth or value, right? Return on investment. So one of the things to know, just kind of like off the cuff, or like off the bat, is that we don't actually, and this also surprised me to hear that, when I kind of found out a little bit more about sales. When we do have a client, the stations never actually promise them return on investment. We never say that you will get 20%, more business or more sales on your direct to consumer site, so your online site or whatever it may be. We don't promise them that, because that's actually a way of kind of setting us up for failure. And not because we don't trust our product, but because we can't guarantee that, where where a lot of other services can or do that. Like, if you look at the business sector or the corporate sector, when you do, let's say, hire an external service, whatever it is, they've got to say, well, if we're going to fix the bathrooms, or we're going to update your systems, or your computer systems or whatever, they have to promise a return on investment there, because there is a sense of touch and feel, a tangible outcome, that like, if we're looking at a computer system, like an application or a software system, it will, let's say, it will increase output, for example, and it'll shorten, let's say, time spent, whatever it is, like work efforts and et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get into the semantics of it, but if it does do all of that, reports are clearer, whatever it may be. Like I say, outputs should support business objectives, right? It has to then go without saying that the return on investment, it'll build for better business and the business activities, whatever it may be, right? And so it will obviously contribute to like a return on investment, right? So that's what I'm saying to you. In that particular context, it does make sense. Um, I do now see, like I say, I do understand that why we don't promise them a return on investment like that, in terms of clarity, like the ones I just, with the example I just gave you, with the computer system, right? Is that we say, well, look, we have a certain amount of listeners, so this is obviously what we have from, the BRC, the RAMs, or whatever it is. This is what we also have done in terms of our internal research. This is the lifestyle. This is what we know that they like. This is what they've said to us that they spend their money on, or this is how much they're earning, et cetera, et cetera. We got the research, right, to prove that the listeners are there, right? So we will obviously give. We won't lead you astray. You as a client will say, look, if this product obviously fits the lifestyle, and the composite character profile of our listener, then we'll obviously say, like, this could be a good fit, and this is quite probably a good fit. But we don't really know how much of those listeners are going to run out and buy, let's say, uh, example, because we don't know how. For example, if you think about the tires in your car, or the tires in a car, around of a car, we don't know, like, per person, per car, whether, a certain tire or tires have been worn out, or maybe one is popped or whatever. We don't know that type of stuff, right? As I'm saying, as a radio station, and so if they need it, which I think is maybe the core of any old advertising. If you do need something, and you hear about somewhere where you can go buy this or go get the service, you're gonna go and follow that up. So so just kind of umbrella it and kind of summarize, what we do is give you a platform, and it's a strong platform, because once again, if we have to just kind of reiterate why radio is such a good platform for advertising, because of the connection that we have with the listener. So because of that personal and that very loyal and that trust connection that we have with the listener, that is a strong that is a good, kind of a good place to put your product, right? It's a good bet, right? Anyway, so that's what we offer them. And so it is appealing to a lot of people that do want to kind of advertise and spend that money. Right. So it takes both sides of the hall to run a successful radio station. Sales and programming obviously work together when we're talking in this context of excuse me, airtime and sales. When the two departments work together, the station obviously flourishes. What we want to do is turn it up. The salespeople turn the radio volume up when there is a commercial break, right? They want to be able to hear how the advertisements roll out, how it sounds. That's their work. It's the importance of what they do. They want to hear the finished product. They want to see how it sounds. It makes money for the station. It makes money for them. Obviously, they get commission, etc., etc. Creative, effective, and powerful commercials are really important. And what is important? How do we create powerful commercials? Ones that get like the message across to a listener that needs to hear it, right? So sales is from Mars and programming is from Venus, right? So salespeople are different from, let's say, the programming department because we are built differently, very creative, and obviously the reason why you are on air or part of the programming staff is completely different to why you're on sales, right? And just if we look at the semantics of like how your work day is spread out and what is expected of you, and your again your outputs and your inputs, etc. We know the two are different, like if on paper, but also the type of personalities are very, very different. Just to kind of confess this, and I don't mind because I mean I've tried to be a salesperson. I'm not. I can conceptualize. So this is something I tried quite recently, and I can't sell. I just can't. I just can't sell. I can't sell something, but I can conceptualize something. A great idea. I need a salesperson with that. They've not only got the skill set, but that charisma that they've got now, they know how to build a relationship. They know how to, create a need. So let's say with a client, to create a need for that client that the client doesn't even know that they need. It's a different person altogether. And that's okay. We don't have to be everything to everyone. We've got to know our strengths as well. From an honor personality point of view, or for the honor personalities, the need to earn a living is there, but most chose the career because of the need for a creative expression, to have that personality, to talk to a lot of people, to obviously offer them a lot of content and kind of do that infinitely, right? A love for performing and a desire to be in the spotlight. It's essential to the happiness of that particular person that is on air and for them to perform really well. But for the motivation of a salesperson, yes, money is, everyone loves money, but it's the financial reward, right? No matter what it is that they are selling, they care about one, the quality of the product and want it to succeed. That's that other it's not an existential outcome or want or need, right? But it's bigger than just the money. So for them to be happy, a salesperson to be happy, they want to see that client happy. They want to see the process, work, and they obviously feed off that. They feed off that kind of very social interaction between, building client relationships and again with different departments and, again, getting those messages across, et cetera, right? Different breeds, right? So break down the brick wall. So the way sales and programming view one another does affect the success of the station. I don't understand why someone would not like the other person, right? But they are incredibly different. So when you do put the two people in the same environment, in the same room, I guess, same vicinity, um, it's not that the two don't understand one another, but they definitely talk a different language, right? So once again, something that I had to learn on hand, where I went and I shadowed one of like a sales executive as they went and they spoke to, like, from the beginning, just kind of see how the sales process actually works. From how they constructed, like, not a rate, it's not a rate card. It's a kind of a, what do they call it? Oh, they call it a stack. Something like, it's a stack. Anyway, so when they put a presentation together, and it's obviously customized to a particular client, and they do the research and they put the stack together so that they can go and obviously present that, pitch that to a particular client or potential customer for the station, right? And the way that obviously you watch them and the way they interact from the person to the reception to admin to like an assistant to the actual person that makes the decisions, ideally the marketing manager from the client, I'm saying perspective, will be the person that makes that kind of final call to say, listen, we want to do something with the station, right? And they are, like I said, you just have to be a certain person, right? Um, and creatives often complicate things in more logical, to make it very cliche, in more logical situations, creatives seem to complicate the situation, and normally that doesn't resonate really well. But okay, like I say, working together is how things get done, right? So imagine if the roles were actually switched. You see, if we put a salesperson on air, they might cave under pressure. They probably will, because they're not that type of person. They might be very charismatic, they might be very outgoing, but put a mic in front of them, tell them to be on stage, and maybe they just won't resonate. And again, it's not clear cut, or it's not a rule that now defines everything, but I'm sure you understand. So the live copy advantage, the credibility sells, right? That some of the most effective spots are ad-libbed or live copy, right? So storytelling skills and personal experience are worked into the sell. And if the host is credible, which hopefully the host is, and it's something that the host obviously has to work at over time. The spots are entertaining, and if the product is decent, listeners are likely to 10 to 1 bite because they heard it from someone that they do like in the show that they like in the station that they like. So credibility is paramount, right? Um, and yes, if you are a bad jock, you're not doing a great job, you do a bad show, 10 to 1, if you are going to go out and use your own voice to do, let's say, a live copy, like so a live read or something, maybe maybe they're not even listening anymore, 10 to 1, but if they are listening to you, they just be like, you know what, not whatever, but they're just not going to have the best of investment intentions, right? Anyway, another live copy advantage is job security. So the advertiser believes that it is the on-air talent's personality that is selling the product. And even if numbers are down trending, if you're bringing in big dollars for big rands, right, for live spots, advertisers will follow you wherever you do go, right? Um, if we look at the sales call, so sales principles, people don't buy radio advertising, they buy what it will do for them. So we're looking at obviously the client. So is it going to give them a better reputation? Is it going to obviously maybe, you know, um, uh, extend that awareness of the brand? Is it going to get, again, more people in the store, more feet in the store, and so on and so forth, right? So, what is it going to do for them? Not necessarily exactly, the actual, just that kind of like that over the till concept of buying the radio advert space, the spot space, right? So, if they won't give you their time, they won't give you their money. People buy emotionally and justify it with logic, and we need to access the client's world, understand the client's world, live in the client's world, and I think that's just so get embody everything and it's not that difficult to do. Like if we can do it emotionally, I'm saying in terms of a kind of empathetic point of view from a DJ to a listener, a salesperson can do that from salesperson to client. You understand? We can we can be empathetic, place ourselves in the client's shop, in their shoes, in what they need, what their needs are, what they want, and and get it, and if you don't get it, like ask questions till you do get it, do the research till you do get it, ask, like look at, observe customers, observe, again, kind of like service trends, for that particular client, whatever it may be, right? So it's not what you say, it's what you ask, just to kind of round that up there. All right. So Mike Siegel recommends going with the account executive to meet sponsors, right? So get to know them personally. And that's from, that can be, like I said, from what I just gave you as an example, a DJ that might be, the person that they aiming. Let's say the show is the drive show, often, or the breakfast show, often. Our sales department or marketing department will organize with their uh, accounts department or whatever it may be, right, to meet together, right? And if a spot does not work one way, be flexible and willing to change that approach, and don't treat commercials like they're separate from the show. So this is obviously a little bit vague in terms of who exactly is involved, but we do. I'm telling you that when it is a big deal, really, like I say, so a big contract or a big whatever it is that they're signing, right? They will sometimes even ask the show presenters, right, to maybe do a mock up, especially if, let's say, the entire show, like let's say the top 40 show or whatever it is going to be sponsored by a specific somebody, right? They'll ask them to do like a bit of a mock up, like a dry run of what it might sound like with the imaging, etc., etc. And so the DJ will be involved with that. Okay, so just before I go into this, I want to see. So let me just quickly stop there. Let's just stop that share. I'm going to go to one video, and then we'll quickly finish up with the rest. There's two here that I wanted to look at. Just let it load there. There we go. Okay, here we go. Now, this was the one, and there was a local one. It's a bit old, but it's fine. So just because we know how long this is going to take, it does take a little long. I just will pause it. It's fine. Okay, it looks like it's going to play fine. Okay, so just one. This is always one perspective, please. And we have many, 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 many more. Okay. So let it play. Okay, so we're just ready with the video here. And then out.
Got a great question from my YouTube viewers. Love you guys. RB Radio Show, who wrote in with a question to say, good video, I had the Real Brother Radio Show, and I do have video ads that I run as commercials on my show. I want to know how to sell more ads. This is a great question, and I have a radio show, and I have a YouTube channel, and I have a website that had ads before, so I know a lot about selling ads. Here's the thing, okay, here's my 2 tips, my 2 best nuggets of advice for you. It has to be really clear what you stand for and who you're selling to, right? So for me, if you look at my channel, you look at anything I do, you can tell that I believe in entrepreneurs. So if you are selling something that relates to entrepreneurs and you want to connect with somebody who knows entrepreneurs, I'm the guy to talk to. I'm one of the best people in the world to talk to. If you're going to sell anything else, I'm not the guy to talk to. Right? There's only a handful of companies. If you look at how many companies there are in the world, there's only a small percentage who care about entrepreneurs. And those guys come to me because they know that I help entrepreneurs. If you're selling plants, if you're selling makeup, if you're selling statues, if you're selling cars, all this other stuff, I can't help you. And I'll tell that to people. Like if you are not selling to entrepreneurs, there's no point in working together because I'm not going to get results for you. So it has to be really clear who you're helping. Who is your target market, right? And if you're pitching somebody, or if you are even writing to me, right? You're telling me about your show. What is the Real Brother Show all about? Who do you serve? Who's your audience? Right? That should ooze out of everything that you do. Make it super clear so then I can even talk about you and I can refer somebody to you. If I know you're looking for a certain market, and I run across somebody, I can say, hey, you gotta listen to this show. It's a great show. Check it out. Right? Make it easy for people to talk about you. So that's number 1, stand for something. Number 2 is a little tougher to swallow. Number 2 is make your show better. Here's the thing, okay? I never go out and sell anything. I don't sell any advertiser on anything. And yet I've worked with the biggest brands in the industry. For my industry, I work with American Express and Google and Microsoft and Dell and major banks and major telcos. I've worked with all of these companies, but I've never reached out to get a sale. Here's the reason why, okay? This is really important. It's their job to know what's happening in the markets that they're selling. So if I'm working with American Express, there are people who are at American Express whose job it is to know what's happening in the entrepreneurial market, right? They are actively looking for people who are influencers, who are getting an audience, who are building traction. That happens when you build a great show. You have to have people coming away from your show saying, that was the greatest show I ever heard. That show was for me. I can't wait to listen in next week and tell all my friends about it. Right? If somebody's listening to my show, I want them to say, that was a great show. And anytime I meet an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell them about that show. Right? That's what happens with some of these videos, right? You like the videos, you comment, you share it. It builds traction, it builds momentum. That's how people find me. I just came back from speaking in Malaysia. I had a keynote speech. It was about social media for entrepreneurs. I don't know anybody in Malaysia. I have no connections there. I've never been there. How did it happen? They found my videos on YouTube and said, wow, we need to bring this guy to our event. That's how it happens, because my videos now are good enough. My show is pretty good. I'm still working on it. I like it. There's still things to improve on it. Right? So your show has to be better. Your show has to be at the point where people can't wait to call in, can't wait to listen to the show next week, can't wait to tell their friends about tuning into this thing. And if you get that momentum going, then the advertisers will come. And you don't have to worry about selling them on anything, because they're pre-sold to say, this is the guy who you have to go to reach this certain community. Your show's not there yet, and that's okay. But here you are, you're going to be investing your time, your energy, your resources, your thought process into doing something that you love, hopefully, which is making your show better and making it have a stronger impact with people, versus going out and doing something that you don't love, which is selling advertising. I've never had, you think about it, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about sales now. You think about sales, right? You think about following up with people, and you're calling people and following up and following up and following. I don't do that, okay? I don't follow up with anybody. People write to me, I'll write back to them, I'll give them a proposal if they need it, but I never follow up after that, because the people who you have to follow up with, they're never going to be good customers for you. Think about the people who keep following up with you, right? Somebody's trying to get you to buy a car or insurance or whatever it is, and they follow up and they follow up and they follow up and they follow up. Are you ever happy with that person? No, right? Like the guys, they're going to be companies who love what you do, who say, this guy's the best at what he does. He's an expert. He helps me reach my audience. I need to work with him. And there can be other companies who just don't quite get what you do, and you have to sell them and convince them and follow up with them. Who's going to be a better customer? And who's going to take more of your time talking to? Right? So instead of wasting your time on the guys who don't get it, who you have to follow up with constantly, spend it on the guys who love what you do and create a product, create a service, create a show that people can fall in love with. Make your...
Right. I think it's quite repetitive. One way of looking at it from a DJ perspective, and he makes valid points. It's a little bit arrogant though, but you know, what are we going to do? Judge him on his personality anyway. But the truth of the matter is that's right. Once you get to that particular point, you can look at a show that's gone through a particular point in its life cycle. It's gone through the right points in its life cycle, should I say, and is a great product on its own. It's a living organism in a way. This is it's a much easier way to then approach the sales perspective, right? Of it. We'll look at another video. Just quickly, just want to get through a couple more slides. Just going to get to the middle here. All right. So let's look at the Pareto principle. So becoming one of the top 20. The principle is named after an Italian economist, so Vilfredo Pareto, right, who noticed in 1906 that 80% of land was owned by 20% of the population. Obviously, maybe it was in Italy, who knows where it was, right? Translated into sales, the Pareto principle states that 80% of business is actually brought in by 20% of the sales force, right? So we obviously have our really great targeting our star sales representatives right there. Not to say anything about the rest of the team, but let's just look at this principle a little bit further. So programming directors may recognize the Pareto principle as, let's say, P1 listeners, right? Also, 20% of the people who buy advertising time bring in 80% of the station's business. So if we look at prospects, sales is a process, explains Bryson. So just a reference over there. And this is how we could possibly get a sale, right? The first one is that's cold calling. And I'm sure you've heard of some of this terminology in maybe other subjects or just in, obviously in everyday life, right? I mean, cold calling is really hard. And that's understating it, because cold calling is when you go and you maybe go research who's in your area. You go maybe have a drive through, let's say, the feeder area of your station. So whatever the radius is, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, whatever it may be, maybe a bit bigger because you might be regional, etc. And you go and look in accordance to obviously maybe some of the research that's been done, etc. But you'd go and look and say, okay, so I've got these particular stores here, and I'm going to approach them like just out of the blue, right? Or I'm going to call them out of the blue, right? And I'm going to start this conversation from scratch. So cold calling, contacting strangers, people that you do not have a connection with. So there hasn't been someone that's referred you, or you have, which is coming up there. You can see referrals, leads, etc. Right? There's not an open door in any way. Like I explained to you just previously when I went with this particular sales executive, right? And we did a cold call to Santon City. So, like going to, because like we know also, we were discussing this before, we're saying there's no way that you're going to actually get past kind of as I said, the reception board or the whatever it is, and get to a particular person from Santon City. You're going to have to go to the actual shopping center, go to like obviously their HQ, whatever it is, right? And then go, and which is what we did, went to go speak to the receptionist, said we are from this particular station. Is the, obviously maybe the assistant to the marketing manager, or is the marketing manager here, that we can maybe just have a particular, like a short conversation with them, tell this person who we are, where we're from, what we want to do, and then kind of set up a follow-up meeting with them, like for the pitch, etc. So ideally, a cold call like over the phone normally doesn't really work, because we are so. I mean, like every single call that you do get to your phone, just as a person, comes from someone that's from telemarketing or whatever it is, so been put off completely by a cold call. But maybe a cold visit, right, is the same context. Scientifically, only 5% will result in actual sales. So a lead, because so someone has told you, this particular person is a friend of mine, or they came to me, or I know that they're looking for a radio station to advertise with. They've got like a little bit of a budget. I know that, so that's a lead, right? Which is different to a referral. When someone directly says, so someone allows you to use their name. So you will go there, and that obviously gives you credibility, and the person will listen to you because they know that other person, your midway connection, like your middleman or middlewoman, right? An introduction, so is another one. So whatever setting, you have someone that introduces you to the right person, the marketing manager or again, that account manager of that particular business, right? And that normally yields a 90 to 95% success rate at the end of the day. Uh, excuse me, the 20% of the salespeople who write 80% of the business live in the world of referrals and introductions. So the more that you use your networks and your connections, etc., the more likely you are to make sales. And that's nice and easy to say, but that means you have to create a network already, right? So that network is also part of that kind of like precursor for you to be a better sales and more successful salesperson, right? So obviously how it works, three phases. Phase one, the top 20% organize their day so that it includes time for talking with new prospects or with new prospects like people. So new businesses. Phase two, then they make the discovery calls to gather information from the prospects. In phase three, they present solutions and ask for money. Now, that doesn't obviously happen all in one day. That's a long process. And again, like making that's why sales, you should give them commission. Obviously, everyone does get commission. Every sales rep does get commission, but they deserve the money that they get because it is a long and it is a hard process to bag clients, that want to put out that much money or a certain amount of money to invest in the station itself, right? On page 397, excuse me, there's a little bit of a snapshot as to what you can say there. Hello, my name is Chris, and I work for KFM, whatever it is. I don't know if we have anything to talk about or not, but I work with business people who are experiencing frustration. Some are feeling the effects of the slow economy or having trouble finding and keeping good people. Others have seen profit margins shrink with the advent of strong competition, like large discount retailers, for example, Walmart, Checkers, etc. Right? Which of these might be a concern for you or to you? At least one of these will be a problem for your particular person that you're talking to, right? So, would it make sense for you to invite me over to discuss this? How about Thursday or Friday? So you kind of force them into saying, can we arrange it for next week? Can we arrange like a video call, whatever it is, later on, today, if possible, if you have some time, instead of leaving it wide open for them to just say no at any one point, right? So again, it's like these little triggers that the salesperson will include as part of their delivery to this particular person. So you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and unfortunately, that is so true. Dress professionally, you're going to smile, shake hands, again, know their product, be very interested, be invested, have like approach with care. All these things are very important to your success, I'm saying, of that particular sale. So this is part one, okay, of this lesson. I just want to I want to close up with that other video, which is, as far as I know, I picked it. I know it's also there, but it was a lady over here. It's a little bit dated, but sells is sells, right? So let's have a look at this. We'll close up there. Yvonne Johnson. Let's give it a second to load as usual.
So what?
Skip that ad.
So, to the sellers of radio stations and agencies, if you just sell airtime, you are always going to be reacting to the price issue. Always. I've heard it, the last thing that they said previously was that radio has become expensive. And that's the narrative at the moment. That's what people say about radio. Radio is expensive. It's not. Radio is not expensive if it delivers value. It's only expensive if it doesn't sell anything. Then it's very expensive. But so is television and so is everything. So everything has a relative value. What I've put up here is the Houghton, which is where I'm living, by the way. And it's very nice. It's very, very nice indeed. But I'm putting this up as a case study because this was a campaign that was done purely on radio. They marketed the Houghton on radio. That's where I heard about it. That's what drove me to go and see it. And 20 seconds later, I was signing on that dotted line. It cost me a frickin' fortune, but it's beautiful. But the radio, why I'm using it is because campaigns can be successful just on radio. And that's a really important fact that we have to put into our heads. I think the campaigns that you've heard this morning have really illustrated that. They've touched our hearts. They made us laugh in 30 seconds. I always think that's absolute sheer brilliance, that you can be moved to an emotion within 30 seconds. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But it's about creating the value. So what is value? Value is understanding the client's business, really coming to terms with what the client is wanting to do. It's about recognition. It's about status. It's about information. It's about creating that fabulous sense of community. It's about the quality of the customer connection. All of these things are added value. So when a client says, where is the value? I'm giving you the language that you can pass on to them. It's about relevance and finding those consumer insights. It's also about the breadth of the offering. We've talked a lot about digital, but it's about social, it's about experiential extensions. And the stations that are creating experiential extensions to the campaigns are the ones that are going to take the money in the end. They're the ones that are going to go out on a limb, do something different. People want to be unique. It's this whole thing about customer choice. They want talkability. Radio is the best medium to create talkability, to create a sense of what's happening in the world. That's where it happens. They want innovation. They want desk research, and they want qualitative research. They want a sense that you care. You know, there's that old famous David Ogilvy saying, which says, clients don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Really important that you demonstrate that you care about the clients and understand their business. They want co-collaboration where they can put their heads together. You know, clients sometimes just want to have some exciting energy in the room, and nothing is exciting like media, where you can sit and come up with a whole range of ideas and try this and try that. That's what gets the client involved, and that's what will make, from a radio station's perspective, the job more worthwhile. They also want editorial support. So this business of radio stations saying, oh, no, we don't do that. Well, you better start doing that, doll, because that's what clients want. And in the end, whether we like it or not, the clients give us the revenue. The clients pay the salaries. The clients are the ones whose heads we have to get inside. And I think far too often we sit from one perspective and we don't think about what's happening out there in the marketplace. And they often want tactical response. So all of those things are added value. So to sum up, what I want to do here today is to change the narrative. A medium is only expensive if it doesn't deliver. Agree? In a digital world, radio is quite capable of being the lead medium. Really important point. Radio has the energy and a vibrance that is unmatchable by other radio types. Brands absolutely can, and we've seen many examples, they absolutely can be built just on radio. Radio can be very reactive to clients' needs, and what people are really looking for is customer-centric offerings. So let's talk about what we want to change and some of the things that we can start to sell. It's easy to integrate with digital, social media, and out of home. There's brilliant synergy with mobile. I'm not saying that radio doesn't support television here, but what I'm saying is this is not the primary reason for using radio anymore. Of course it can support television, but it's how you use it. And again, I reiterate what Ralph said. I think it needs to be different creative. It absolutely inspires creativity. It absolutely gives word-of-mouth endorsement. We've talked a lot about that love, that connection we sense with the person who's talking to us on the radio, that relationship that we have with people on the radio. Build frequency with radio, that's very old school. Yes, you can, but I want that to be taken out of the principal narrative. For me, it's almost become a throwaway line. It's about edutainment. It can be the primary medium. It's not just about brand recall anymore, where they took the television soundtrack and dumped it onto radio stations. It allows for real dialogue, as we've just, well, you haven't seen, you've half seen the YouTube clip where the client allowed real dialogue with their clients. It allows vibrance and maneuverability. It's accessible everywhere, especially now. That, in fact, the other day I was at Radio Jacaranda for a promotion, and somebody emailed in who was listening in London. And that's what's happened, is South Africans all around the world are listening to South African radio. They don't have to be here anymore. Tactical and immediate, and really important, you cannot PVR it. So, you know, that poor elephant ad I go through at about plus 64, times 64. So what's the way forward? The way forward is to create partnerships, to be flexible, to actively throw away that rule book and build engaged relationships, to become a source of credible information, to develop solutions to brand problems, to research insights from your audiences. I mean, I think that Future Factor is a really good place to start because it's already giving audience insights to the radio stations. But I think that it's incumbent upon the stations themselves to go and do research and really interrogate what state of mind their audience is in. Get to know the DNA of your stations. And lastly, train your salespeople to be marketers. They're not just salespeople. They need to understand the marketing process and they need to understand the client's issues so that they can offer solutions.
Yeah, that's a great video. I might as well even subscribe. Right. Okay. So I'm going to close. I'm going to end that lesson over there. We'll do part 2 coming up.